There's a reason. And like I said, that very first lesson, 80% of finances is behavior. 20% is knowledge. We got to solve the behavior problem. And on this paper here at the very beginning from Duke University, the leading psychologists and financial planners, the major cause of overborrowing and overspending is discontentment. That's the major cause, is discontentment. All right? And so the bondage of debt, I want to get into that just a little bit. One of the most common causes of bondage is the abuse of credit. All right? The abuse of credit. And I'm going to get into some situations and we're going to start getting where the rubber meets the road. Proverbs 22:7. You should have this memorized by now. I think we quoted this every week. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. We quote this just about every week. And this principle should make us cautious about borrowing. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that borrowing is evil. The older I get and the more wisdom I get, I guess, I go on to the side that debt is dumb. All right? And I told you before, my goal in life is to have a 0 credit score. That's my goal. That's my goal. When my house is paid off, after your mortgage is paid off, about 6 months later, your credit score drops. If you have no debt, it drops. Because you have no liabilities. If you have no credit cards, if you have no debt, you have no liabilities. It drops to almost 0. That's my goal, to have 0 credit score.
And does that affect you?
Does it affect it? No. The only reason you need a credit score is to go in debt. That's the only reason. And you don't need a credit score to buy a house or a car. It's called manual underwriting. You don't need a credit score. We could get into that, but if I have a 0 credit score, and if for some reason I needed to buy a car, the goal in life, and this is later when I get into the strategies and tips is for several years we've always put a little bit aside in an emergency fund. I don't care if it's $5 a pay, $10 a pay. You might say, well, I can't save. Don't buy Starbucks that week. Save it. Even if it's just a little at a time, but we've always planned to save. It's like I told you 2 years ago, in 24, our roof started leaking. Fortunately, for years, we've had this foresight to save. So instead of going in debt, and just for openness, it cost us about $12,000 to replace the roof. Guess what? I had it in savings over years. And so I wrote 2 checks, one at the beginning, one at the end. I didn't have to go into debt for it. All right? So the only reason you need a credit score is to go in debt. That's the only reason. A credit score is the indication of your faithfulness to pay debt. That is it. That's all it's for. And my personal goal, now when we get into debt, people say, well, you can use debt as collateral to build wealth. Yes, but nobody in this room is at that level. You can. Okay, we can talk about passive income, about renting property. Real estate is one of the best investments you can make. It is. I mean, when I look back on my house, we bought it 14 years ago. It's more than doubled in price. Since COVID, the inflation rate has dramatically increased, and real estate has dramatically increased. My personal house, if you own a house, since COVID, it is more than doubled. You look at houses now. You look at prices of houses. My daughter, they just got an offer on their house. They're selling their house. And I look at the price of their house, and I'm like, Lord, have mercy. I remember a few years ago, and what they sold it for, they had an offer more than they were listing it. And I'm like, you paid that? Somebody paid you that. I mean, this house is tiny. It could probably fit on this platform. I am not lying. Renee bought it when she was single. 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And that second bedroom is kind of an attic that was turned into a bedroom. And it's 1 floor, really. I'm seriously, the whole first floor can fit on this platform. And I am not lying. And what she just sold that house for will blow your mind. Done in Oakmont, I get that, but it's a good investment. So I'm not saying this. I'm not saying all debt is bad if you can manage it. Okay, there are times that if you're going to use it as an investment, but we should be cautious, and that's what this is about. It should be cautious. Okay, now if you're buying something with wheels and put it on serious credit, where it's a vehicle, whether it's mobile home, if it has wheels, it's going to depreciate in value and not increase. If it's got wheels or motors, it will depreciate like a rock. It will drop quick. I told you a couple weeks ago that as soon as you drive your vehicle off the parking lot, it will drop within 30 seconds, it drops 15% in value. People say, well, why is that? Because once you drive it off the lot with the keys, it is no longer a new vehicle. They can no longer sell as new, and it is now used. So the value drops. Within a couple of years, it will drop 65% in value. It's just the reality, right? So what we're talking about, bondage to debt, and that verse is just a principle should make. It's a principle. I'm not saying it's a hard, fast rule. If you buy a house, I am not knocking. Just hey, I'm for it, but you got to be mindful of it. There are principles we have to live by to keep you out of trouble. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago that the rule is that we've always gone by, and the rule you should go by: if you buy a house, keep it 25% of your monthly budget. 25%. If you go above 30 max. But if you keep it in that range, because stuff happens, life happens, you know that. And if you stretch it too much, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Because you still got all your other bills, utilities, you got taxes, you got all this other stuff you still got to calculate in. And if you go through past that threshold, it's going to get you in trouble. It will get you in trouble. All right? So it's a principle. Now, what I talk about is not a hard set rule. It's just principles to guide us and lead us, and we got to be cautious about borrowing. When people consciously borrow beyond their normal ability to repay, usually it's because they lack the self-discipline or the strength or the character to deny themselves what they can't afford. Renee, a couple weeks ago, they got the first offer on her house. And the offer was $6,000 or $7,000 below the asking price, which that wouldn't have been a problem. They would have sold it. But this buyer came in and said, we want 4% seller assist and for you to pay the closing costs. And she called me. She said, Dad, I said, what they're doing, they're buying a house they can't afford. They can't afford it. Because they want a $6,000 below asking price. They want you to pitch in 4% of seller's assist, which is a lot of money, and pay all the closing costs. I said, you're gonna lose money because they're trying to buy something they cannot afford. And usually people get in trouble buying things they really cannot afford. It's okay buying used. It's okay buying until you save up and can. My wife's car was the first car we ever bought brand new. First car we ever bought brand new. Usually it's my truck. Dude, I stole that thing. Because, anybody remember Big Red? My pickup, my 1992 Chevy? Oh, I miss that thing. That thing was a rust bucket. I loved it. It had an 8-foot bed, single cab, bench seat. Oh, I loved it. But it was small. It wouldn't even pass inspection anymore. I knew I had to have a new vehicle. I sold it to a farmer because he has it on his farm because it doesn't have to be inspected on a farm. So he bought it for $500. That's all it was worth. But I got fortunate, so I started going around. It was during COVID trying to find a new truck. I went to every dealership. Not one salesman. Most of them, they were closed. You had to call a number on the door. It would go to a voicemail. They would call you back and say, hey, I saw this truck on your lot. I'm interested in. You had to negotiate over the phone. Then, if you wanted it, then they would come, they would do the paperwork, put it in an envelope, give it to you. You had to look at, sign it, put it back in the envelope, give it back. You never talk to a salesman face to face. I was like, forget this. Finally, a dealership I went to, in Tamara's Ford, I pull up, the salesman comes walking out. What? All the dealerships I went to, you're the only one in person. He said, yeah, I don't care. And because they weren't moving vehicles, I got it cheap. I mean, because they just wanted, they got out all these vehicles for a couple of years they couldn't sell. I got it cheap. You know? I just bought it at the right time. But people get in trouble because we try to buy things we really can't afford. Gotta have the new gadgets, gotta have the latest this, gotta have the latest that, gotta have that. I remember a few years ago we had to buy a new washer and dryer, and they tried to sell us a washer and dryer with Wi-Fi. And what in the world why? Why do I need that? It has Wi-Fi. You can actually download an app. If you forget to start the washer, it was an extra $600 or $700. I can't remember what it was for that dumb thing. Oh, I got the latest gadget. Well, good for you there, Slade. And I told you about the iPhones. That's the biggest gimmick. New iPhone came out. It takes better pictures. You're going to spend $1,200 on it. And I use the phrase all the time. This is how broke people stay broke. Because we want to buy things, and we're bondage to debt because we want to buy things we can't afford. And so I put on your paper here. Why do people borrow more than they can afford? These are the leading causes. Again, I think this came out of Duke University, that first study I did. Number one is optimism bias and the planning fallacy. Many borrowers believe their future self will be more financially stable or earn more than they are today. That's the hope, right? If you're in a job, hey, I'm going to make more. You hope.
Yeah.
What if they don't give you the raise you expected? What if something changed? You don't know. You're betting on your future. That's never a good idea. That's never, well, I know in the third quarter of the year our company gets busy, so I get overtime, so I'm going to plan on that. No. Here's a hint, never budget on overtime.
Yep, because they can take it away.
Don't budget on overtime. I see people doing it. Well, I get this much overtime every, don't use that for your budget. Use your regular time. If you get overtime, it's a bonus. It's extra. It's icing on the cake. You get to enjoy it. But don't plan on it. Don't budget that. But people, they optimism for future. And this leads them to underestimate how long it will take to repay a debt. Or how much they will actually earn. So they take on more loans than they can manage. And you see it all the time. People take on loans on future optimism. No, you can't do that. It gets you in trouble. Matter of fact, when you go into something, you gotta have to think about the opposite, a contingency plan. Can I afford this? What if my hours get cut? What if I lose my job? What are the contingencies? It's like if you're doing a construction project, you better have a contingency plan Brother, you could probably testify this. You ever start a project and it takes longer and costs more than what you planned? If you're going to do a construction project, you better have a 15 to 20% contingency plan just if. Because you start opening walls, you start doing this, it is going to take 800 trips to Home Depot. Because you're going to forget something, something's going to break. You got to have a contingency plan. If not, you're in trouble. You're in trouble quick. And we have to have a contingency plan. And so that should be in your mindset that if you do a purchase or you do something, have a what if. If you plan for the worst, then you could be set. But if it works out the way you're great, you're golden. But if not. Number two, the present bias and instant gratification. What wrong?
Yeah.
This gets you in trouble. This is probably the biggest. Humans are wired to value immediate rewards more than future consequences. We see it. Credit cards, buy now, pay later schemes. Easy loans exploit this by delaying the pain of repayment, making it easier to overpay. We want it now. You hear it a lot, I want this now. There's a contention going on about the housing market. And there's a contention about the younger generation saying, well, boomers got it so lucky because when they bought a house, it was $60,000. But you got to compare apples to apples. When they bought the house, the average square footage of a house was about 1,200 square feet. Today, the average square foot of a house is about 2,900 square feet, new house. When they bought a house, there was no microwave, there was no fancy dishwashers, there was no, you buy a house now, there is. There's gadgets, they're high-end gadgets, there's all this. And when they bought a house, if you had a one-car garage, you were lucky. That was nice. Now, it comes with a two-car garage expected. So yeah, there's some variances, there is a difference. You can't compare the two. You can't. And people want to go in with instant gratification. I want this. When I get out, when I get a job, I want this. It usually don't work that way. I think I told you my story when my wife and I, we got married. My word. She had that Dodge K car. We loaded that thing up. Everything we owned would fit in that little. That car probably could sit inside that. That's what we had. Our first coffee table, dining room table, was a $20 end table we found on the side of the road. That was our coffee table end table. That was it. I found somebody that was, the Air Force has, the military has what we call an airman's attic. These are used when people move or whatever. They donate their used furniture to like these, it's called the Airman's Attic in the Air Force. You could go and pick up used furniture. I paid $50 for a sectional couch. That was our couch and our bed. Little sectional. That was, you know. And we had a tiny apartment. We had fun though. We had fun, you know. And from there we just built and went, and like my daughter example, she bought this little bitty house. Now they're moving to Apollo, PA, and they're getting a bigger house. It's much nicer. But guess what? It took several years. She's getting there. But the problem that we have a lot of times is that we want instant gratification. It's called impulse buying. Anybody ever do impulse buying? We all have.
Oh, yeah.
We've all done it. Everybody's impulse buying. It's an immense psychological, financial influence of making unplanned, spontaneous purchases. We've all done it. We still do it. I do it sometimes going through Home Depot. Oh, that tool's cool. I don't have one of those. So you buy it. Not a big expensive purchase. If I buy a big expensive purchase, I'm talking to the wife first. That's a different lesson for a different time. But it was something, you know. We do it. You know, this economic force, this is according to Nelson IQ, the economic force of impulse buying accounts for 80% of all e-commerce transactions. 80% is impulse buying. You might go to Amazon, like you're going to purchase something, and then something pops up. Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't think of that. So let's buy it. 80%. There's probably some people that the Amazon driver knows you by name. My brother and his wife were here last weekend. Amazon driver knows them. They just found out they're going to have their first grandkid. And I joked with them. I said, you might as well go ahead and put a snack bag and a refrigerator on your front porch for the Amazon driver, because that's how often they're going to visit. But 80% of e-commerce transactions are impulse. It shapes the retail environment worldwide. Markets, supermarkets, and stores are set up for impulse buyers. The checkout register. You think they decided, hey, we need to fill this space, let's throw stuff in there? No. There's a psychology behind it. You ever wonder why you walk down an aisle in a supermarket and things seem out of place hanging there? It's by design. It's called cross-marketing. It's by design. I've done it myself. I don't enjoy grocery shopping. Most of the time, my wife does it by herself, but sometimes I'll go. And I'll be pushing the cart, just looking, watching people while she fills the cart with whatever. But sometimes you see something hanging. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's like, that's kind of neat. That's a neat little gadget. I don't know what it's for, but it's neat. And a lot of people will buy it based on that impulse. I don't think I've ever bought one like that, but I just like looking at gadgets. But it sucks you in, it gets your attention, and it's impulse. Impulse buying relies on specific cognitive biases and biological responses. There's a dopamine release by purchasing. You purchase something, there's a dopamine, it's a psychological force that you get excited, you feel good because it's new. There was a commercial of a car dealership in Erie. And they had an older couple sitting there. They weren't that old. They probably weren't much older than me. It was the Honda dealership. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. But they were saying this is their 35th Honda. So I started doing the math. They had to buy a new car every year and a half. And they were bragging about it. This is my 35th Honda. I'm like, what? That's a continual buy. I'm like, is this a gimmick or are you for real? Every year and a half you would have to buy a new vehicle? That's him. Let's just go ahead. That's just stupid. But it's a dopamine. It's a psychological. If they're not buying something, that's why hoarders. You see, it's not as popular now. Matter of fact, those channels will probably go away. Home Shopping Network and that'll probably go away. But older generation, there's some that got addicted to it. They would buy. And you go to their house and their house is full of junk. Most of it not even open.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's a psychological addiction to your brain. When you buy something, you get excited. You like buying stuff. It's cool. But it's a reaction. Unplanned buying triggers an immediate surge of dopamine, providing instant gratification. Another one is loss aversion. Limited time discounts exploit the fear of missing out, forcing rapid decision making. They're so good at that. Limited time only.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's like John B. Schultz, the other most thing, they got to sell for every day of the week. It's like, wait a minute. But they worded that if you miss it, if you don't get there now, you're going to miss out on this great sale. It's not really a great sale. Walmart got busted. I've never seen a YouTube video. Somebody went in and it said, the rollback prices. And it had a special price, rollback price. Well, the guy took the tag off and the original price was exactly the same. I got my first lesson. When I was in high school, I got a job at used to be County Market. You might remember County Market, it was down there by C&J.
Yeah.
That's where I worked. I stocked shelves. And I got my first lesson in marketing. I'll never forget, it was green beans. We had it listed for 25 cents a can. It wasn't selling that much. The manager said, you watch this. He said, watch what happens. I said, okay. So he changed the sign from 25 cents a can to $4. They flew off the shelf.
It was the same price.
People thinking they got a deal. It was the same price as last week, just worded different. I can't miss out on this for $1. And here I am, a 16-year-old kid. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
He said, it works. Just change the wording. And people think they're missing out, so they got to buy. I'm like, wow. Is it mood regulation? Shoppers use, anybody use retail therapy? To temporarily alleviate stress, boredom, sadness, that's a real thing. Retail therapy. There's nothing wrong with it if you can afford it. But it leads to death if you're not managing it correctly. Retail therapy is a real thing. It is a real thing. Okay? Outside of Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever, I get stressed. I do. I hate shopping. Those were here. We were talking Wednesday night in Bible study, and Friday we have off. The wife informed me we're going clothes shopping. I've lost about 40 pounds, and I'm down just a few dress pants that fit. And so she said, you need to make a list. And Friday we're going to go shopping. Brother Rick, my stress level is already. Pray for me on Friday, okay? Pray for me. I don't enjoy it, but what I really don't enjoy when you go shopping for dress clothes and that little old lady comes out, how can I help you? She wants to measure and take. Look, woman, for the sake of your life, just walk away. Just walk away. It will spare your life. Because I hate it. It's not therapy. How you ladies, it's not therapy. I know how you ladies shop. You go and you look at it's like 4 trips around the same store because you have to look the first time. The second time you compare. And you got this whole system down. Us guys, I make a list. I need this. I go, I get it, I'm out. It's a business transaction. But a lot of ladies, it's therapy, which is okay. It's okay. But it causes debt if you're not careful. Cognitive ease. Clear value propositions like buy one, get one. Eliminate the stress of tedious price search. Number 3. Wow. Social pressure and lifestyle inflation is a reason that we buy social pressure. In many cultures, borrowing is tied to appearances, buying a car, home, or luxury items. People buy things to impress people they don't even know. I told you before that one of the greatest freedom you can have in your life is when you get to the point you just don't care what people think. I don't care. Dude, like I said, I loved that 92 Chevy. It had rust in it. It had holes in the side. I loved that thing. I don't care what people thought. It was loud. Because the muffler was about rust. But I really don't care. But people buy gadgets and show it off, trying to impress people. When you get to the point, I really don't care what you think. But that's one of the realities. I gotta have the latest. And I have young guys at work that do this. Well, I just bought this. For what? Now, again, if you can afford it, if you budget it and save for it and can afford it, that's different. Enjoy it. But just to buy it to impress, and sometimes they're kind of disappointed when I'm not impressed. I have this guy at work. I love the dude. Everybody likes this guy. He's just one of those guys. He's not the brightest bulb. He's simple. He's 60 years old. He came to my office and he said, hey, I know you're good with this. He gave me all his retirement and everything. And do you think I can retire in 2 years? I said, dude, you in trouble. And I was just honest. He has a truck payment, he has an RV payment, he has a house payment, he has a boat payment.
Wow.
60 years old. I said, dude, I'll be honest, you can't afford to retire. I said, you want to retire in 2 years, you better start selling stuff. 3 months ago, he bought 2 kayaks. He's single.
Oh dear.
I'm like, then this past weekend, I'm standing there, and another guy's standing there. He comes up and says, oh, look what I just bought. He bought a paddle boat. I'm like, now you have a boat. You have 2 kayaks, and you bought this little paddle boat with foot pedals in it. I'm like, at 60. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Well, it'll be fun to go out on the lake and...
Yeah.
I'm like, but do you understand? He's trying to buy things because he'll come bragging like it's impressive. I mean, dude, what are you doing? I said, you'll never retire. You'll never retire. You'll always be in debt. I mean, who are you trying to impress? But we try to impress people with stuff, and it's just social pressures. Number 4, emotional spending and stress avoidance. That kind of goes back into what we talked about before. Debt can be used to cope with stress, cover unexpected expenses, escape financial anxiety. Borrowing to get through or a tough period can create a cycle where more debt is needed to pay off existing loans. And stealing from Paul to pay Peter. Consolidation debt loans. Borrowing from your 401k to pay off. You're not getting that debt, you're just moving it. But I understand when you get into a stressful situation and it seems like the world's caving in, that you make decisions that seem right, but they're not wise. The illusion of, oh my goodness, minimum payments. Oh, I could preach a sermon on this one. Making only the minimum or multiple credit cards can create a false sense of control. And don't get me started on 0% loans. 0%. Well, I got 0% interest. Good for you there, Seth. Good for you. The problem is, I thought I put the survey down. Who it was about. The problem is 60% of the people never pay it off in time. That's the problem. The interest will go from 0 to a minimum of 21%.
Yep.
Now you're in trouble. Now you're in trouble. If you have the ability to pay it off before that term is over, you might, okay. But very few people do that. It's like the points back credit card. Well, I get points back every time I spend. If you pay off your minimum every month, it'll work. Yeah, your balance. If you pay off that balance every month, you're good. I didn't look it up. What's the latest statistic? I think it was between 60 and 70% do not pay off the balance every month. If you do, you're okay. It will work. You will get cash back. You will gain points. You will gain. It works, but the data says the majority of people don't, and they fall into that gimmick, and it becomes debt and it becomes bondage. Be careful, because you might put that on your card and say, "I'm going to pay it back." What if something happens you didn't plan for during the month, that you did not have an emergency fund? Now you have to cover that instead of paying your balance. Now you got 20% interest on that, which you make sense? This is how we get into debt. This is how we get into trouble. Trying to game the system. And here in a couple weeks, I'm going to start going through some strategies. They work. It's boring, but it works. My wife and I've used it. It works. It works. They did a survey of over 10,000 everyday millionaires. And they used the same system that I'm going to give to you. It works. It's boring. Now, you're not going to become an Elon Musk and become a trillionaire. But you can become pretty successful with it. And it's very simple, very easy. But we have to avoid, we have to get our mind right. And that's what these first few lessons are about. Again, number 6. Time is, we got a couple minutes. Number 6, cultural and family influences. You know, sometimes borrowing is normalized. I told you, my dad was the worst money manager on the face of the earth. I'll just be honest, he horrible. He did not get out of debt until he lived with us at the age of 84. And I forced him. He tried to pay us rent, which I appreciated. I said, no. I said, you're paying off these credit cards. He had 4 credit cards with balances. The minimum was $2,000. But he was one. He would put his groceries on a credit card. He did a card pay, put it on a credit card. He would put this on a credit card. He would put this on a credit card. Never paid it back on time, and it just kept building and kept building. And then earlier it was like they got to the point where they had to borrow from this credit card to pay off this debt, and it just went back and forth. It was horrible. I'm telling you, it was horrible. And I tried to tell him over and over and over and over again. Oh. But people learn that. I thank God every day that He gave me, somehow He gave me enough wisdom that, I don't know. I think it's my wife. If I would have done that, she would have beat me with a stick. But there are cultural references and cultural preferences that pass on generation to generation. You can change your generation. You can change your family tree. You can. It's not just in finances, but it's in the spiritual life. You can change through the grace of God. You can change generation. You can change your family tree. Interest and compounding costs. Number 7 there. Compound interest. It's good and bad. The power of compounding interest is amazing. It's like 401ks, investments. IRAs, powerful. Stay away from annuities. It's the dumbest thing ever. Unless it's a variable. Then it's okay, but an index, that's just, I don't want to get into financing, but compound interest, if you invest in a like I do a VOO, which is based off the S&P 500. That's one of my investments. But you just let it sit there every 6 years, it'll double. Because it has an average return rate of 13%, and every 6 years it doubles. Not even doing it. It's the magic of compound interest, the greatest magic ever. However, it's also the negative. Compound interest on debt is just as explosive. You start going to pay student loans, break it down to a daily interest occurrence. It'll give you a heart attack. I remember Renee's when we started paying on hers, and I broke it down because I'm geeky like that, and threw it in a spreadsheet, did an amortization based off of it, and the daily interest gain. I'm like, Lord, have mercy, this is illegal. And it should be illegal. The compound interest occurrence on student loans should be eliminated. Eliminated. Gone. It's especially on government loans, student parent loans, that should be eliminated. That is the biggest scam and ripoff. If I was the president, that's the first thing I would eliminate. Compounding interest on student loans. That's how student loans never get paid off. It is the dumbest thing ever. Let me get back. Flesh is about to get involved. But it's bad. The compound, you have to understand the compound interest. So why does it matter? Ignoring these factors can lead to debt cycles, damaged credit, higher interest rates, long-term financial stress. And if we recognize the warning signs, like borrowing to cover daily expenses, repeated borrowing, relying on minimum payment, is the first step to breaking the cycle. The first step to breaking the cycle of debt and financial stress is who was it? Zig Ziglar said, you got to change your thinking. Behavior. You got to change it. And I put the question, what do borrowers become? That was from your scripture. Slaves to the lender. You get into a debt cycle, you feel like a slave. Never get out of it. There is a strategy to get out of it. And I don't have time to finish this. It's already 10 till. But we have to understand the cause before we start solving the symptoms. Right? Are we good with these lessons so far? We have to understand the psychology behind it. We have to understand it and what drives us. Once you figure that out, it would help you get there. And I hope you get some out of these lessons. Really, every week I just kind of make them up. I do. I try to, because at the beginning I thought, I'll do a handbook, I'll do all the lessons, have all the lessons put in there, and it'll be all nice and pretty. Well, if I had 30 hours a week to do it, I probably could have done it. But every week it keeps changing. I keep thinking, I like to do this, I like to do that, I like to do that. And so hopefully it's beneficial to you. But we're going to I got probably, I say one more week, but I only got through halfway through my lesson today. A week, maybe 2 weeks. And then we'll get to practical applications that I'm telling you, they work if you apply them. They work. All right? Well, God bless you. Let's take a few minutes and we'll get into our service.